Paranoid film rating, something, something, something. I'm trying to think of the lyrics that make this go to the song. And everything we talk about is between you two 18, whether we're talking about Da Vinci Code or Elfin Lead, Robocop, Mary Poppins, and other musicals as well. Not other films that made us paranoid, but then again will make us feel so bad. You know what we're going to
Do
be
not
doing,
give
right?
up your do not give up your day job. I hate to be blunt, but that was really tone deaf of you silly little div.
Well, we won't be censoring anything, but we won't be doing the musical routine. What's this? What's this? We're doing a musical podcast. What's this? We're talking about these things like Night Before Christmas and South Park with the longer known cannibal Sweeney Todd. What's this? With Rob Bavister and Mark of Skinny Media. We talk about this and why I think so. Maybe you, PG 12, 15 or 18, and then I will fall asleep. What's this? All right, I'll stop.
Thank you. Thank God. Sorry, I don't mean to be snarky, but people may find it entertaining.
Oh, absolutely, there. Well, as always, we always talk about how did you get your start with musicals? Now, you could either do that, or first, let's just deal with the whole Mary Poppins controversy, because that is probably the reason why I did this podcast, because everyone's been complaining about why is it a PG? Yeah, you're supposed to because someone says hot and tot.
Is that what it was? I mean, yeah. Let's go with that bit. I don't think anyone gives a fuck about their volleys into musicals and everything. I think it's going to be pretty much the same as everyone's who's listening. So yeah, let's talk about well, that non-controversy. So I'll hand the mic to you there.
Well, I got a word about it just from browsing the BBFC website like I do daily. And when I saw that it said PG for discriminatory language, I was a little bit flabbergasted as to why a movie that vanilla would get such a higher rating. But, it coincided with a survey that they
High
did
rating.
regarding to racial attitudes and stuff. And just saying any sort of ethnic slur will at the very least bump you to PG, even if it's one that not very many people have heard of, like Hot and Tot. I never heard of it when I was growing up.
I've never heard that one. Like, I haven't actually seen Mary Poppins, so I can't actually comment on it. I mean, to say you said giving it a high rating, but come on, dude. I mean, the PG is not considered a high rating. I'm doing the air quotes, by the way, rating now. Like I've said, I brought Frozen enough times, which is a musical, by the way, so it can count. It's
Ah,
it's kind of hard to like justify a film ever having a lower rating than Frozen now, and most '60s or era U's probably aren't going to be U nowadays. Most 20th century U rated films aren't going to be used nowadays. Uh, that's a whole nother kettle of fish altogether. But no, actually, that's all I've got to say on that. So back to you.
no, but it's true there. I mean, when people, think about a movie that was you at one point, but probably should be like PG or something, Mary Poppins is not the film people sort of think of. And the scene in question, most people have seen it by now. It was one of my father's first films he saw as a child. He went to the cinema with his parents to go see that at the Royal Cinema in Faversham. But let's just get out of the way. Involves, the H word that I just talked about, but it was also sort of a bit elaborate because we also have the dancers around sort of with soot on their faces, which implies blackface. And then there's playing with fireworks and stuff. And I guess
That's
me,
that's a very cool. That
I'm
ain't gonna go
left
down well with
wing.
them.
No, no, not after the survey that they did like last year regarding attitudes towards race and discrimination and so forth. But it's not the first film I would, sort of put in my head as like that should be PG. Hunchback of Notre Dame, that's another musical and a movie we've talked about a lot. As much as I talk about Da Vinci Code, that really should be PG. I know you haven't seen it yet, but trust my word for it. Or another movie that we haven't
Yeah,
even
and
talked about.
well, I'm gonna say most films from back then that were could be PG nowadays. I mean, it's very sort of. By the way, I've just looked up the term Hottentot on Wikipedia. Apparently, it was used against the. It was a British and South African English. It's a term that historically used by Europeans to refer to the Coco. I don't know how you pronounce it. The indigenous nomadic pastoralists in South Africa. I don't know how, or Koiko. I don't know how you pronounce it. But if I look it up on Wikipedia, it'll have it all there for you. Sorry, I just came into it. But where was I going this? Yeah, but so talking about, I mean, a film being upgraded from U to PG. I mean, what difference does that make in a day? It makes no restrictions on who can and can't see it, or whether or not they're accompanied. So it makes so really, it's very. It mean it's. I was going to say it signals a lot, but it doesn't do a huge amount.
No, it really doesn't, and unfortunately, and this will bother you, a lot of right-wing media has sort of jumped on this story and thought, oh, BBFC is being woke. They're telling the children, oh, you can't say these certain words. Oh, they need to relax, straighten up a little bit. But listen, friends, Lawrence Fox and all them, I'm left-wing, and there are certain things that I think we should sort of chill out on. But don't read into something more than what it needs to be. They did this with another
They're
film
going.
recently called The Secret Society of Magical Negroes. I'm telling them to shut the fuck up and stop. Now, a movie that deserves the PG after years of being a youth for so long is the Oliver musical from the late 60s. Now, talk about scary. That the Sykes character played by Oliver Reed, he smacks a woman, he beats her to death. This is played off screen, and there's child abuse and children, I think, smoking and stuff
Yeah.
like. Whoa.
Oh yeah, totally. I did. I have watched that once. Of course, I've also done I watched it because my school did a production of it. Well, when I was back when I was 10, so that was good. Yeah, but again, I mean, a you from the 1960s is not like a you in 2024. I mean, or in the last 20 years, for God's sake. I mean, I don't think back then. I mean, it didn't even mean what it just meant. Just I guess you can just. There was no particular restrictions who can see it, but it doesn't mean it's necessary for little bitch babies and everything. But of course, now a U rating does mean a film is for little bitch babies. Um, but then again, a PG practically means that as well. I mean, if a film's anything less than 12A, you're going to think, oh god, that's going to be vanilla.
Oh. Maybe I'm still a little bit different because I still am in that mindset where, something's a little bit off on this one. Just like with Paddington Bear or Paw Patrol 2, them being PGs in whichever country, that made me a little bit concerned. Like, hold on, this isn't as
That,
family friendly as I thought, but
that
those
was
aren't
it was a
musicals.
yeah, true. But Paw Patrol was a yeah, but yeah, let's not get into that because we could be here all day if we get off topic. Um, yeah, yeah. So yeah, I guess that's Mary Poppins. Of course, to talk about offensiveness in Mary Poppins, probably the most offensive thing was Dick Van Dyke's Cockney accent. Attempt at one, at least, anyway.
All right, I'll do it myself. I'll clean the chimney sweeps there. All right, yeah, maybe popping. Oh, that should make my ears bleed. Ugh. And I'm, also American, partly, just like Dick Van Dyke, but even that made me cringe. But that's another
Well,
story there.
no, but it's quite a funny thing to talk about, though.
Oh yes, of course. I mean, people love Mary Poppins with this supercalifragilisticexpialidocious and all those
Oh,
little
fuck it.
songs and jingles. It's very much the kind of movie you would watch with your grandmother while having some tea and niece or custard cream biscuits. Oh, I
Dick Van
remember
Dyke
I
still,
watched this when
yeah,
I was a child.
yeah. I was going to say Dick Van Dyke still alive,
No, he is. He's like
He's
90 something. He's oh
98.
oh. Oh, he's even older than my only grandparent, who's about 84 this year, so he's going to be
Quite a bit older
85.
than,
Oh,
quite a bit older than.
what
I
about
mean,
for you?
he what? Sorry.
What about for your grandparents? Are they gone or are they still around? Because I'm sure they probably remember taking you to see Mary Poppins when you were a little sprog, or
Okay,
whatever
A, no,
musical.
Mark. Okay, sorry. A, no, they didn't. B, unfortunately, they're all gone. But bearing in mind, I am quite a bit older than you. I'm the youngest in my generation of a family. There's big gaps between generations in my family. My youngest grandmother was, or grandparent, was born in 1920 and was 6, because he was born in December, 25 years older than Dick Van Dyke. My oldest grandparent was born in 1912 and died in 97. So he was born the year of the Titanic and died the year Titanic came out. But that's neither here nor there. No, my grandparents are all gone. But they're all good innings and everything. 3 of them broke 90. I don't think I ever went to a cinema with any of my grandparents. So I didn't. Well, I may, like I said, I don't think I've ever seen uh, Mary Poppins.
Well,
And
sorry, I got
but
sidetracked there. It's just, with that sort of type of movie and musicals in general, I always think of my mother. She loves like TCM sort of stuff that you watch with the singing and the dancing. She's a big fan of Singing in the Rain and Gigi. I don't know if that's a musical or what's that one? West Side Story, the original, which I don't know if you've seen that one.
I
Maria, Maria.
no, I right. No, I've not seen West Side Story or Sound of Music. If you're thinking of that as well, I have seen Grease. We'll get into that in a minute. I also just wanted to bring up while I was on it. Julie Andrews is also Mary Poppins still alive, but she's a fair bit young. But she's quite a bit younger than Dick Van Dyke by 10 years. Dave Tomlinson wasn't quite so long lived. He died in 2000. Glynis Johns only died this fucking year, and she was 100. So make of that one. But again, let's not get too bogged down details. Again, I've not seen Sound of Music or West Side Story. No, I've heard about them. Just trying to think of any sort of older musicals, but I don't know if those were.
Chitty Chitty
Uh,
Bang Bang.
I haven't seen that. To be honest, mate, I haven't seen a huge amount of musicals because I'm not really interested in them. Most musicals I would have seen would have been Disney stuff, which have like a big musical number in them. Obviously, I've seen Grease, and of course, that's probably the big musical that everyone thinks of, which I'm guessing you've seen.
I have. It's a film I always associate with my parents, their generation, because I was a certificate film or PG. Um, I
PG-13
always,
now in America, isn't it?
oh, they bumped the rating on it. I know in Britain they've re-rated 12A in recent years. I'm like, well, I guess. I mean, there's some,
Have they?
sexual humor.
Wait, hold on a second. Did they? Greece, not according to their website, they haven't. It's still PG. It's been bumped up uh in America. Well, the sing-along version was bumped up in America. In fact, if you go into that high impact classification website I usually tell you about, and you know about anyway, but I usually talk
Yes.
about. Well, that's on its list of films that are rated PG-13 in America, but PG in Britain. And it asks, and in terms of which one they think it got it right, they say the MPAA, they reckon it belongs in the PG-13 and should be a 12A. Haven't seen the film in a while, so I can't actually comment, but there is some references to not so much domestic violence with it. Tell me more, tell me more. Did she put up a fight? Which is a bit ooh. And of course there are some sexual references and everything. I don't know how many strong they are from my memory, but well,
Well,
that's all I've got to say about that. So I mean, over to
some
you.
of his humor was a little bit frank at times. But I mean, that's the weird mindset where if it's like a sort of old PGs type of movie, that's mainly because of some language or sexual banter. I'm usually tend to be a little bit more forgiving. I view Grease the same way as I view Barbie. Kids will love it, young woman will love it. It's probably not appropriate for like 6 or 7 year olds, but it's up to you really if you want to show it to your kids. They'll have a blast, even though it might teach them, hey, smoking in schools is pretty cool and dress like a teddy boy. Hey, we talk like that, like John Travolta. He's doing that sort of Fonz thing from Happy Days. Yes, I'm going to be bringing up some sort of boomer, early Gen X type of lingo here, so bear in mind, millennials, Gen Z. But if you want to change the gears a little bit, you could talk about some of the more contemporary musicals or more adult-oriented
I
ones.
am, well,
Like,
that's where we were going, dude. That because I mean, my two favorite musical films and the two I'm most familiar with are going to be you probably well, no surprise here if anyone's listening, but the South Park movie and Blues Brothers.
shut your uncle fucking face, uncle fucker.
Shut
Uncle
your fucking
fucker.
that's UNCLE. Fuck you, Uncle Fucker. Right, suck my balls. Yeah, that.
Well, that one we already know about from past convos. We even saw it at your place. And I still am very jealous of you to this day that you got to sneak and see it underage in the cinema. I was too young to
Technically,
see it. And it
I didn't actually
bothers
take.
me.
I technically didn't sneak in. I just, well, my mum bought the tickets and everything, and basically both me and my mate were just old enough to give the cinema plausible deniability, so they didn't ask any questions.
Exactly, Dad. I wish I had the same sort of thing as you did, because that sounded pretty awesome when that happened. It being the first 15 film is an animation, certainly plays into my whole sort of obsession I have to this very day about, oh, it's a cartoon, but it's got adult content. So, in all fairness, at the time it was deemed a strong 15 because of the language, but it's pretty much a 15. I mean, if they rated it 18 like they almost were, I heard from the grapevine, it would have looked really silly. What 14, 15, 16-year-olds haven't heard fuck or shit at GCSE and A levels?
I always use it as an example of the BBFC having a better sense of humour than the MPAA, because for all the troubles it had with the MPAA, the BBFC just felt fuck it, it's a 15, and of course, yeah, and it wasn't. Remember, this was like in 1999 when Furman had just left and the BBFC had taken a massive pill, and it was this was indicative of that, of just a sign of the times that yeah, they've become cooler, they've become more chill, they're not going to slap 18s on things willy nilly. And I know I've said this before. I sound like a broken record, and I don't give a fuck because I'm going to keep saying it. Yeah, it's a good thing that they pass more things 15 than they did in the past. Fight me.
Well, we both beg to differ. I'm the more conservative one. Rob's the more liberal-minded on this issue. But South Park is a film that we both agree, just like Sausage Party and Team America, that it's fine at 15. I'm not going to cry Nicky tears. Now, Team America, on the other hand, has gotten a little bit of gotten itself in deep water now that it's been re-rated 18, or at least the uncut version. I'm not entirely sure what version it is, but they re-rated it 18 for strong sex references. And I'm like, over
But
humping puppets. And that
it
is
does
kind
look
of a musical, but why?
it does look like it was the one. It was the NC-17 rated version, which does involve all the defecating and urinating and all that. I mean, getting a bit of. As you know, wait, Team America is a bit of a musical because there are some songs in it, like "I'm So Lonely." I best not do the accent; actually, it might come across a bit problematic. But the
What
Kim
would
Jong
you
Il song.
do for a bucko fave?
Well, yeah. But yeah, but sorry. But no, I mean, South Park is a 15, probably just a probably gonna stay there. I mean, apparently there's a one use of word cunt in it, which apparently was the first film to get past with it, but I don't know if it is because well, I'm looking at a bit they mentioned. It's like, is that cunt or is it cock? And if I can't tell, chances are they couldn't tell. So I can't give a BBFC too much props for that. But But yeah, I mean, the bit where Saddam gets his knob out, or it's not really his knob, is enough to give him props for it. Uh, so that's South Park, and of course, do we want to? What do you want to talk about some more, or do you want to move on to Blues Brothers?
Well, I will say, as far as the C word is concerned, that probably would not have been the first one. I think it was Officer and a Gentleman, and then With Nail and I, which had like one or even two uses, and then Glengarry Glen Ross, and those were films that came out in the 80s and the 90s that both had that
Kind of
word at the 15 level, and I was like, wow. You learn something new every day, don't you? And quadrophenia, but we're not. Well, actually, we will talk about music films as well, if we're allowed to, like School of Rock or Pink Floyd's The Wall, Quadrophenia, those Metallica movies. You can include
Bohemian
those
Rap
on here.
Bohemian Rhapsody.
Yes, yep, we'll include it because it deals with.
Not to mention
Mamma
Rocket
Mia,
Man.
watch me now. No, 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 no. Sorry.
Not to mention Rocket Man as well.
We'll include that. If it's dealing with musicians and singers, along
Rocket
with
Man is a
musicals, we'll
musical.
fill the void. No,
Rocket Man
it's
is a
true.
musical. They actually have the songs, singing the songs.
And no, because you can tell everybody that it was a 15, but it got into quite a bit of trouble with Russian censors because the queer content. Well,
Well, I
blame
mean,
Putin.
well, yeah, and the Chinese ones, and anything that's going to be in any of those more conservative films. I mean, good God, I mean, we haven't got all day to go through all that shit. So, I mean, uh, yeah, I mean, these are not
But weirdly enough, I'll cut you off a little
reset.
bit.
Sorry.
Rocket Man did get an M classification in Australia after it was initially MA15 on an appeals process to try to get a lower rating, but even if it had one use of, well, I'm just a fucking cunt. Yes, Taron Egerton character says that, and they managed to get the lower rating on an appeals process in Australia. So I thought, well, no shit. Aussies use the C word a hell of a lot more than us.
Well, we in Britain use it quite a fair bit, certainly more than the Americans do, because we don't. While we do consider it a very strong word, we don't consider it to be offensively misogynistic like it is in America, where like if someone says it, especially if yeah, rule number one, if any Brit or Australian here, don't ever say the C word in front of an American woman, they will not take it well. Or at least I don't think they would. And I don't know if the same can be said for Canadian women as well, but that's what I have there. Yeah, I have seen Rocket Man. It was on Netflix. Yeah, it's a good. Fortunately, being R/15 rated, it could go into Elton's more well, not debauch. That's got negative connotations. Or hedonistic lifestyle. Whereas like Bohemian Rhapsody, being both PG-13 and 12A, well, couldn't. They had to like gloss over uh all the frantic and uh
Well, the
manic
drugs and
yeah,
sex.
no, I'm just saying. I can't. I usually can think of the words, but when I'm put on the spot like this, I can't fucking think of them. I was going to say debauched, but of course that's a bit negative connotations and all the hedonistic and
Let's just
lavish
say
stuff they got up to.
vice.
Well, I suppose, but behind closed doors, like as most rock stars do, and are tend to be expected to do. Uh, so yeah,
No,
and of
but no,
course, I
it's
mean,
true. I wouldn't go into a rock film not expecting at least sex and drugs and swearing. Otherwise, you're just watching Skillet or Hillsong, which are Christian bands. That's just me being funny. But as far as I can tell you about Bohemian Rhapsody, I have not seen it, but I did do a rendition of Freddie Mercury just did a few minutes ago, which I thought probably didn't go well. But it seemed like one of the few films that had LGBT content that mainstream audiences thought was okay to watch, and it didn't get much censorship even in Russia, despite scenes of Rami Malek's character sort of kissing about, but he's depicted as bisexual in the film, which
again,
some people have
they would have.
said thought was straight washing.
Well, again, they would have cut round it because they're cutting around these things specifically to get around those countries' censors and everything. Or if they put any sort of homosexual activity in there, it's so brief that they can cut it out and not get noticed. Whereas, of course, Rocket Man just did not give one flying fuck and just reveled in it. And props to them for it. You gotta give them the, you gotta, give them the thumbs up or whatever. So you gotta hand it to them just for like freaking having the bollock to do that. I've just thought of another musical film that just suddenly came to my mind. Now you brought up Rock Stars, Rock of Ages. Have you heard of it? Have you seen it? You heard of it? I mean, what?
I'm not too familiar with it, neither the Broadway musical or the movie with Tom Cruise. Can you spread some information on this one? Is it because of the
Well,
drugs
I
that
can.
was strong at 12A?
Well, no. I mean, basically, I mean, I can spread some light, shed some light on the issue. Obviously, it's just a jukebox musical, typical film, typical jukebox music. I mean, veins of Mamma Mia. Only it's more of a love letter to that shitty 80s glam metal stuff that was or 80s rock that was basically all the rage in, well, the 80s. And of course, it came out in 2012 when 80s nostalgia was still quite a thing before it gave away to 90s nostalgia that predominated the 2010s, because obviously 20-year nostalgia cycle. But let's not get bogged down in detail in those semantics or details or that bollocks. Yeah, I mean, it's an okay film. I mean, I don't know how film. I mean, it's reasonably enjoyable. It's only 12A slash PG-13. Oh no, here's something that's interesting. I didn't know this before because it's got an extended cut, and that extended cut was R-rated in America, but still 12 rated here. I did not know that.
Okay, we've got a Batman v Superman type of situation going on. I'm guessing some of it might have to do with maybe some sexual stuff or drug use that was probably stepped a little too over the edge at PG-13. But
Well, I'm gonna look. I'm
um,
looking up on IMDb as we speak, so I'm going to have a quick look into that and see what it was that might have put it over. La ti ta ti ta. Anything else on the freaking extended version? Fuck me. This does waffle on quite some bit. Not, as you can imagine, this is not very professional of me, but doesn't say what's in the extended version. All I know is it's 11 minutes longer, but it doesn't exactly say what. But yeah, it's just a typical jukebox musical, send up a love letter to all that 80s cock rock and everything, most of which is absolutely cringe-worthy by today's standards, with the exception of Guns N' Roses, who are still very cool, and I will die on that hill. Yeah, it's just something very good. I mean, I think it may be on Netflix or anyone, or in fact, I'm gonna just Google it on my phone just to see where it is. Again, really professional of me, but then again, I'm not a professional podcaster, so who cares about that? Oh no, it's not available to watch for free anywhere, so don't worry about that. But no, I mean, no, it's fun. But it's just one to put up there. But typical, I would have only seen a theatrical version, which is typical 12A shit. So but no, I was wondering if you might have seen it, but you haven't. I mean, it's okay if you can get. Oh, but then
my
again, Russell
knowledge of
Brand is.
hair
I just
metal
let me
and
just fit. I just want to finish off one last thing. Of course, Russell Brand is in it. If you can bear to look at him without dying of cringe.
he
So
has a
yeah,
way of being very showy. He's always done that shtick of his on One Leicester Square, and even in Getting to the Greek, most I could tell you about that one is that it's got quite a lot of drugs and stuff, but you would expect that sort of material to appear in sort of like a bawdy 15 comedy. As far as hair metal and glam rock is concerned, I can only tell you about T-Rex and Mark Bolan. You know, bang a gong, get it on, get it on. Blues Brothers, I know we can jump onto that one.
well, I was
Um,
trying to lead into that. So
oh,
yeah,
sorry, I got myself ahead.
well yeah, I did mention it earlier on if you wanted to talk about it, but yeah. What the fuck was I going to talk about?
Well, that
Well,
is
have you seen Blues Brothers?
I sure have. It aired on TV many years ago, and I saw it. Must have been like 17 or something. It was a long time ago, but it's a pretty good movie as far as ratings are concerned. I know it's a 15 because of the language, but it felt very PG-13 or 12A to me. I almost didn't notice there was F words in it. It just felt very vanilla. It was like watching a
It is.
first MASH movie.
It is a very tame film. It is a very, very tame film. I first saw it when I was 11 years old. I noticed it was a 15. Was it 15? I asked my mum. She says, will it contain some swearing? And I remember watching, it's like, oh yeah, there was a bit of swearing. But as I've watched it get older, I realized, well, the word fuck is only mentioned quite a few times. I mean, obviously, way more than it could ever get with PG-13. But I'm looking at all these films from the past that have been R/15 or double A rated in the past are now become 12A. You've got Blazing Saddles, you got Life of Brian and Rocky Horror Picture, which is another freaking musical, but let's get on that. And of course, if they can get dropped down, I wonder if the BBFC would be willing to drop this down to a 12A. I mean, I know it's got more swearing in those films, but it hasn't got anything else in it, considering Life of Brian has got 2 inches of full frontal nudity. And I'm thinking, yeah, this could be next in line for a downgrading. But then I remember one of the F bombs is a motherfucker. And oh, they do not like that at 12A. And they got to get over it. But I mean, I think as long as they just have that hang up with it, it's going to remain 15, which is, but again, such a tame film. There's no sex, no drugs, no violence, just 9 uses of the F bomb.
Exactly, which would be on the pretty high side, even a little less than King's Speech, kind of figure. But if I had a child and he was like 12 or something, I would be like, okay, you can watch Blues Brothers, but I'm not going to let you watch Da Vinci Code. See what I did? But yeah,
Oh,
it's a
totally.
no, it's because I don't remember there really being anything that offensive about it. And I will say this, it is one of those sort of rated R films that most people have seen and don't seem to have a sort of hang up about. I call them acceptable R's. Matrix is in that camp, Terminator 1 and 2, the first Alien, Pulp Fiction, weirdly enough, is in that camp.
Aliens
And that's
is
got some
okay.
disturbing stuff.
Aliens is okay with that. Well, because Aliens is pretty tame, but me and my not last what was I going? Not last the Christmas, but the Christmas before. I think it was Christmas 2022, 2021. Can't remember. Me and my brother and my mother just sat down. My brother and mother sat down and watched Blues Brothers, and of course it's just a good fun time. Just because a few f bombs. I mean, four weddings and a funeral probably has more f bombs than Blues Brothers. In fact, it does actually, and Love Actually, and most people would happily watch that with their parents. I mean, kind of weird. It's times like that you
No,
start to realize, okay, if this shit can't pass at 12A or PG-13, then split the R and 15 into two separate ratings, one weak, mild, and one stronger, to fit films like this into, because it's again doesn't make a whole lot of sense.
no, but you've got a great point there because I've been even saying this to a few people, or at least in my disturbed head. You got acceptable R's and you got R's that you probably should not take the kids or even your grandparent, your mother to go see. And Blues Brothers and all those other films that we were just talking about sort of fit in that mold there. When it comes to musicals, people generally tend to be having a little bit more of a relaxed response towards them because they are usually aimed at the widest possible audience. But there are, in some cases, ones where they can really push the envelope. South Park, Team America certainly do that because they're animation films that are not for kids. But what about Sweeney Todd? That was a
Oh
full
yeah,
blown
man.
like 18 film, and it had like graphic fun.
Well, well, honey, you broke a bit there, but yeah, I've seen it once, and it is quite a yeah, it is quite a violent film. I mean, I don't think it should have been an 18, but then I'm bound to say that. Um, I ain't got much else to say about it, really. I mean, it's it's an all right. Well, I'm gonna have to say about Sweeney Todd, to be honest. I'll let you talk about it.
As much as I can tell you, that's really the only objectionable scenes in that film, and the fact that
No, I
it
did.
got the R rating was those graphic throat slittings.
Wait. Well, yeah.
Very, but yeah, because it's Tim Burton, it had the Johnny Depp sort of musical factor. I'm sure there were a lot of young people who snuck in that movie. I almost was going to because I wasn't 18 at the time, but I thought, do you want to get in trouble with Odeon or Cineworld staff for doing that? I mean, I almost played with fire when I stuck in the Wild Wild West and Watchmen and Spider-Man underage, but I didn't want to do it for Sweeney Todd. So yeah, kind of
Well, to
regret
be
that.
honest, I mean, is Sweeney Todd really the kind of film really worth it? I mean, I wouldn't even bother going to cinema to watch a film like that. I mean, nowadays it's like, if do you really want to go to the cinema just to all the way to the cinema to sit in a room with loads of other people just to watch this film, which you can't pause, by the way, at any point, or just wait like a couple of months until it comes out on one of the various streaming platforms and watch it then? Because fuck, I mean, but that's just me though. Yeah, Sweeney Todd's and you know,
I'm going to
I suppose
debate
your
you
mileage may
on that.
vary,
I'm
but
not going to because that I'm not going to debate one because if the film is controversial, I will go out of my way to spend X amount of money just to go see it on the big screen. I mean, that's what I did with Poor Things, and I did with Civil War. Everyone was talking about it, so I thought, well, let's see how people react to it. But beside the point, I don't know very many musicals at the adult level except for Cannibal, which I believe that's from the South Park people. Some people might even say that if Book of Mormon was a movie, probably might teeter on 18 territory because there's a particular song in it. Hasabana Ibawai, fuck God back right in his cunt. Yes, that is his line in it. And he's like saying
wait,
suck on my cunt, suck on my cunt quite
what
a
film
few
did you say?
times. Well, it's not a
What
film
film?
to play, but if they
Oh,
made it
right.
into a film, it might get in a bit of trouble. It's the Book of Mormon. South
Oh,
Park people
right.
did it.
Yeah, I know the Book of Mormon play. Everyone knows about that, or at least everyone who's not massively old.
And then
Yeah.
Repo the Genetic Opera, which looks like a Rob
Oh, yeah.
Bannister movie with the gore and the metal aesthetic. That's an 18. That's
I
a musical. I'm like, whoa.
yeah, I've never repo Virginia. I haven't seen it though. Contemplating probably going to see it, but I have not. No, I haven't got around. Haven't actually seen that, to be honest.
What about those Metallica documentaries or movies like S&M or Some Kind of Never?
Some kind of monster. I watched that one. Um,
So I
I
know
didn't really care
nothing
about it.
much about metal music, but I always hear, all these uh, metal musicals and music movies. They always rely on the gore and the Satanism.
Right. Well, like I say, I watched it and it was reasonably entertaining, I guess. I mean, you did think the band members came off a bit whiny. It's also just kind of grating when you actually consider watching the documentary, knowing that the sorry, knowing the album they're actually producing uh, whilst filming it. For those, in case you didn't know, well, anyone who knows anything about Metallica would know what I'm on about. But for those who don't, I'm going to say it was the 2003 album Saint Anger, which is not only the worst Metallica album ever, it is arguably the worst metal album ever, or one of the worst albums ever produced. I mean, it was such an absolute train wreck of an album. Uh, Everyone wishes we could just scrub it from existence. I don't know what exactly was going through their minds when they made it, or what they were trying to do, but holy fuck, they were not whatever direction they're trying to take the music in with that, it was not something that they were good at.
Well,
Uh,
actually, I like Saint Anger, just the song, because they used to play it on Kerrang a lot. That and Enter Shikari and Good Charlotte and Blink 182. That's probably why you don't like it, because it's a bit too pop and not as gritty and grungy like you like your metal.
Well, that and of
Not
course it's not typical Metallica stuff because it's not the riffs are too slow. There's no guitar solos. There's just not what you expect from a Metallica song. I mean, it sounds like they're trying to make a new metal album along the lines of Korn or Slipknot or Limp Bizkit or System of a Down. But Metallica aren't cut out to make that kind of music. Their music isn't heavy enough. James Hetfield's vocals aren't harsh enough. Lars just isn't. Lars can't drum like Joey or an Jordison R.I.P. from Slipknot can. They were good for making thrash metal or maybe early 90s groove metal a la Pantera, as they proved with the Black Album. But the kind of music that was the form of metal that was popular in the early 2000s was not their bread and butter. The point is just stick to what you're good at, okay? That's all I can say on that.
well, okay. Well, you know a lot about it more than I do. When it comes to metal, I can only tell you about the funk stuff, like your Faith No Mores, or industrial, like Ministry and Nine Inch Nails.
Yeah, good
Speaking of
shit. Good.
which, yeah, I mean, if you bought me tickets to Nine Inch Nails when they were at their prime in the 1990 with Pretty Hate Machine, I would still be your friend. But I'll jump the shark a little bit, and I don't know if this counts because it works both as a music and a musical source, although it's quite grungy. Is Metalocalypse, not an easy word to pronounce. You had the
Oh yeah.
DVD, and I saw it was an 18 certificate animation. I could only imagine why. Yes, it's
Oh
probably
Christ,
gory, but it's
no, no,
probably
no, 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 no. I mean, maybe it shouldn't have the 18. I mean, I think some of the later ones have dropped to 15s, but holy fuck, they deserve it. I mean, it is pretty fucking dark and grim and horrid stuff. I mean, in a way that it's like, in terms of horror, it's like South Park or even Family Guy, but without the levity or anything. I mean, in terms of like visual gore, it's basically well over them. It has all the reckless hedonism and everything, and in sexual references that you would expect from heavy metal. And it's just freaking dark. I mean, I find it hilarious. Someone who's not into metal is not going to enjoy it, and I don't think you. Well, I mean, I guess you might have watched it, but I mean, if you're disturbed by Da Vinci Code, I mean, you're not going or Casino Royale. This isn't going to sit well with you.
Hey, I've got a strong stomach for stuff there, but it's just because the music genre is sort of mocking. I can't relate to it. As far as Adult Swim cartoons are concerned, I like Space Ghost Coast to Coast, but that's not really one people sort of know about, at least in the UK. It's very sort of PG level type adult cartoon, which like Simpsons, it won't offend too many people. But yeah, that's why I brought it up because I thought it's somehow tied to music. As far as other music films are concerned, School of Rock, if I'm allowed to bring that one up, I'm
You're
sure you love that movie.
absolutely. I've seen it once. I thought it was yeah, okay. I mean, I liked what it was all about and everything, but I didn't like the kind of boomerisk attitudes to rock music. 'Cause it's all like all really old school rock and roll and everything. It's like probably the kind of people that were shitting on new metal back in the day, of course, which is which can get a big middle finger from me because I think new metal is awesome. I mean, sure, I can see a lot of flaws in it, but it has its place in the musical pantheon. And
I like new
I've only seen it.
metal too.
Yeah, well, I mean, you just got to know what to appreciate with it, and it's about the groove of a funk. It's not about the intricate guitar solos and everything. But let's not get too sidetracked, because that was a PG-13 rated film, which got a PG here in 2003 after 12A had come through. So that's interesting. Although that wasn't too uncommon at the time, it just become less and less common as time has gone on.
But now it's been re-rated 12A on the basis of, I'll say it anyways, the word spaz. I
That
think
stands
there
to
was some
reason.
sort of sexual banter, and I think there was a kind of a creepy joke, knowing, with Dan Schneider and Nickelodeon being a bit creepy and stuff.
Thing is, though, back then they were doing that quite a bit. Then I remember, oh, what film was it? Pacifier, that was it. Among with a few other films back there in the early to mid 2000s, which had the term spaz in, were cut out to get a PG as opposed to a 12A rating. So it's bizarre that this got through completely and utterly without any issue with it. But maybe that was before they came in and changed that one. There's not really a huge amount of drug reference with this, because I remember at the end that when Dewey finds some kid hanging out with another band in their van, and they were smoking something, but you couldn't tell what exactly they were smoking. It's implied. I mean, it could easily be mistaken to be a cigarette, but most of the older people probably guess it's weed and everything. But of course, he highly condemns it and everything, and yeah, so clearly some drug references as one would expect with that kind of lifestyle, but I mean, it's never really led on, so I guess it just slipped under the radar. I mean, just looking, the reference crack, but nothing's going on. So I guess, yeah, but I suppose it's a good fun film, and the thought, the song from it, I guess it's called "School of Rock." I don't know what is the song called that they sing in it? Did you know?
I wish I remembered it, but I know it goes like this. So if you want to be a teacher's pet, you better
Oh, it's just
forget.
called
You ain't got no
it's just called
reason, you
School.
ain't got no rhyme.
Okay, we get it. Yeah, I think it's just called School of Rock, or is it? Actually, is it?
I think it is, which more or less
It's a
is
good song.
Tenacious D at the end of the day. It's Jack Black and probably Kyle
Like,
Gass doing their little sort of comedy rock routine that they do. I actually used to like Tenacious D, and with the song, uh, what the one with the devil in the music video, he's saying like, "Come play the best song in the world." I used to see that as a kid and a
tribute.
teenager along. That's the one, and they never censored it when I watched it on Kerrang and MTV2. I always thought that music video was hilarious, and the scene with the granny with the demon eyes never scared me. I thought it was hilarious. That
But
shows
to
you
be
how
honest,
much
they're
of a
not.
badass
It's
I am.
Well, it's hardly something that really warrants freaking censoring. I mean, it's pretty kitsch. I mean, who's that gonna unnerve?
Bible belters.
Even they would probably just take it as a Halloween trick or treat kind of stuff, which is not going to be taken seriously. I mean, come on, man. It was already 2003. Mary Whitehouse already been dead. Most of the people probably moved on. I mean, I know it was in the 2000s when fucking George Bush and his administration were in power, but nah, I mean, something like that isn't gonna irk them. Hell, even by the 1980s, that might have been a hard push to actually irk it, uh, to get in it roughly with any feathers. But well, that's just me, I guess.
Well, it
Maybe I'm just a bit.
depends, really. I mean, Dungeons and Dragons, that caused a shitstorm in the 80s, and people said it got blamed on copycat crimes and murders. That stupid board game that nerds play, D&D. Maybe I shouldn't have mentioned Tenacious D's tribute. It's the Pick of Destiny I was trying to think of. I actually never seen it. All I can tell you is it's 15. It's a more adult-oriented musical, but it probably appeals to Rob Bavis's metal sensibilities. Jack Black. That's pretty much what he does best, and it fits within the mold of this sort of subgenre of movies itself, because you tend to like the more contemporary stuff more so than the grandparent or even elderly mother watching her 50s, 60s era musicals with the dancing and the U certificates. Usually, when I associate old school U's, it's usually those old musicals that's all in sort of black and white or Technicolor, and everyone's saying like, "Well, listen, Sonny, you have thrown down with the dame, see?" Except they're not saying this. But when you think of the times you get suckered in, are drugs and alcohol and sex with women, okay? It's not when you do these things too much, then you become an addict and you must get back in touch. Don't
That
make
is
me
quite
do
that.
it.
Well, yeah, I'm not gonna make you do it. It is a funny song, but to me, it's always gonna just be about Uncle Fucker. No matter how many times I hear that song, it just brings a smile to my face.
Well, my
It's
favorite
just so,
one is the except another addicted spot. It's easy on coke. If anyone asks, that's my favorite one from the
it's a good
movie
song.
itself. But yeah, Uncle Fucker, that was I remember seeing the clip of that on Sky Box Office before my parents found out I was watching it underage behind their backs downstairs. I got to see the brief clip where it said ass is on fire and stuff, and I was like, and then I heard the words, "You're watching South Park?" Ooh, that moment still haunts and traumatizes me years later. Do you think I've got psychological issues? I keep talking about that and Elfin Lied and Da Vinci Code. Maybe I need to go to therapy.
Yes, you do. I would say so, Mark. I mean, maybe at least speak to one and just see what they say. I mean, it does seem a little bit weird that you'd be a bit hung up on everything like that, but that's neither here nor there. I'm not a psychologist. It's not for me to comment.
Well, it
Which
makes
I'll
for
have.
great humor on this podcast there. If anyone who, says, goes on the street and says, you were scared by the whipping scene, or, um, uh, oh, you were scared by the Alien from Darkness cover.
I'm not scared of you. It doesn't hurt at all. Please, no. No more.
It'll be a punchline for anyone who I meet on the street. But I'll stop jumping the shark a little bit. If you do want to talk about other musicals, you're more than welcome to. For anyone who's curious, my favorite one is James and the Giant Peach, which I know we've discussed before. That movie, for some reason, scared generations of younger millennials like myself, but it never scared me. I always thought it was hilarious. Or
Was
watching, creepy insects and then some shark machine trying to have his nasty claws on a millipede and the imaginary rhino trying to terrorize the insects on the peach and sparks thunder. Yeah, people say it's nightmare fuel and it's a musical, but it's a U to me. If you rate it PG, you're just doing what these nanny state people want you to do. Kiss ass.
well, yeah. I mean, I suppose. I mean, sometimes I mean, it's hard to tell really then what kind of rating something might require. What was rated U back in the day might require a PG now. It's just sign of the times. I mean, there's probably a load of U's and X's from the 60s, cut X's, that now, completely in uncut forms, both fit would be rated 12A. So make of that what you will. But that says more about back then than it does about now. So I mean, you know, that there was another film I had in mind, but I can't remember what it was now. Now,
Is it a music film or musical?
I think it was
So I
more of
must.
one musical. I mean, one musical TV series that I've watched a bit of recently that I haven't been caught up with has been Hotel.
I've never.
Have you ever watched that?
I have never even heard of it. I'm afraid. Is it Channel 4?
No, it's on Prime. I mean, don't worry, I haven't really watched enough of it to make to to make a comment on it. But I'm certain anyone who's listened to this, it's been quite popular actually along if social media is anything to go by. So that's something. Um, huh. According to Wikipedia, Saturday Night Fever counts as a musical. Have you seen that?
Unfortunately, that's one I haven't, but I really should be meaning to see that because for a long time it's always been known as the movie that had the 2 ratings. They marketed it as not only an X film, UKX, or rated R film, but they also marketed a PG version just to get more bums and see because everyone was so interested in one this Travolta disco. Do, 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 do. Every favor. I know the soundtrack quite well. Staying alive. And it's an 18. The
Well,
C
yeah,
word. I'm like,
yes, it is
that,
well, yeah, an 18. Yeah, I don't know if it can be dropped to a 15 now, but I haven't really checked. But it is. No, it's a good film. I mean, yeah, there's a cut PG version, but I mean that the amount I have to cut out would be quite a fair bit. So I mean, I wouldn't. Well, I haven't seen it, so I can't really say. But I just watched it recently. I remember one time my mum bought it for me for Christmas from 1998. The things I was expecting South Park videos because I said I wanted them. So I unwrapped it thinking it would be South Park, and I found out it was that. So tried my hardest to mask my disappointment and never ended up watching it. I feel really bad about it now, so I decided to watch it one time when I found it on streaming. Well, that and I've heard it's a really good film, and yeah, it is. Well, if anything, it's just really fun to watch John Travolta bust a move online because fuck, that guy could dance. I suddenly remembered another uh, musical film, suddenly, a film from the 80s. Let me know if you've seen it. Have you seen Labyrinth?
all I'm aware of is that it's a U film. It was PG stateside, like Dark Crystal was. But it scared a generation of Generation X and early millennial kids, as far as what I know about. Tell me if this
No,
is true.
well, I can't say because I watched it a few years ago on streaming, and I posted on well, I always usually announce I'm watching something on Facebook because I just do that, and I said another one I haven't seen. My brother just commented, "What? We used to watch this all the time." It's like, did we? I don't know if I can remember, but then again, we might have watched it like during my very early years before I managed to form any memories because I don't recollect watching it. But I mean, it is a really nice film. I mean, I remember I was watching in terms of the rating, you are right. I was watching an episode of Nostalgia Critic where they were well, reviewing it, and of course they said, "Oh, a PG film like Frozen," and of course the watcher's like, "Yeah, because that was a 80s PG back then." But yeah, I mean it is a really good film, and I just suddenly realized, oh Christ, David Bowie really was a good musician because the songs in it are just excellent.
Well, I mean, on his side projects they did with albums like Heroes and Low, Ziggy Stardust, you can't go wrong. My favorite song from Bowie is I'm Afraid of Americans. They used it on Purge election year, but he actually was, weirdly enough, in the intro to The Snowman. He came down the stairs and was put like the scarf. That's the first ever time I saw the musician was on The Snowman, that great 80s cartoon that made me cry every Christmas. But yes, I want to jump on another musical as well. I just forgot. You ever seen Pink Floyd's The Wall? It's both an
No, I've not seen the People's War. The only thing I've ever seen about it is Nostalgia Critic's review of it, which is considered to be his worst ever review ever, and basically a constant example of what an absolute schmuck Doug Walker actually is.
well, I only have ever seen select videos of his that he has done, but the least I could tell you is this. You don't have to be a fan of the progressive rock band just to enjoy it. If you like watching psychedelic animation and sort of satirical takes at Britain's education system. You got to wear uniforms and stuff, and then also fascism. You will love this movie. It's actually one of the greatest music films outside of School of Rock and the Sleaford Mods documentary Bunch of Kunst ever made. And I, for some reason, remember someone even playing it at the school. And it was a 15 movie. You couldn't legally do that, but they shown it anyways. And it must have been like in year 8 or 9. And they played it somewhere in the background. And
Well,
I was like, oh,
that's not so much a bad idea when that age. I mean, they showed us Schindler's List when I was 14, but I was only a year below. So I mean, not that big a deal.
Did you have to sign like a permission slip from your parents saying, "Yes, we're going to
Yes,
show
we
you
did.
this movie"? They
Yeah,
did have to do
we
that
did.
with me when we were shown like Saving Private Ryan or Pianist, or was it Stand By Me? Either one of those films. Go figure. Saving Private Ryan. I know that's a war movie, but that is pretty graphic. And it's fine at 15. That's all I'll say about it. Other music films I'm trying to think of. Well, animation. That's sort of we've already discussed Oliver and Company and Aladdin and Lion King. So those ones we can sort of clear out the way. Anime musicals, I don't really know any.
None spring to mind.
There,
I'm just trying to think of none. Yeah, I can't think of any anime musicals, but I mean, I don't know. Kind of.
I know
Yeah, I mean,
Family
I
Guy
can't really.
had a few episodes that had this sort of singing and banter routine. They were fine at 15. I know some episodes of Family Guy are so offensive and violent. I do have to wonder how on earth did this get passed through Fox? They air it on American TV, but they air that, but they don't air Archer. And Archer is actually milder than Family Guy, but
I mean, it does raise a few questions, but then again, Family Guy is such a rating golden egg or golden goose for them. They're not gonna cut it out anytime soon. But yeah, there's only one episode they refused to air, which was When You Wish Upon a Weinstein, which does have a song in, by the way. But yeah, that is quite offensive because they are making some rather near the knuckle jokes about Judaism. So yeah, that's
well,
so
part of the
yeah, there's that.
problem
I
is
got much else to really to add to that, even though I do watch Family Guy quite religiously.
it
I'm
used
just
to be
trying to
one of
think
my
of a.
favorites too. The first mention
You know,
unfortunately coincided with my love for animes at the time, so the two sort of coalesced in my brain in weird way. And now I just don't watch it anymore because I can't keep up with all the episodes. It's like with Simpsons, there's just too much of it. Looking at it here on the gigs, I'm also looking at these other musicals. And, you haven't be familiar with Hairspray. It
I've
was
heard
like
of it. I
PG, but
have
it had quite a bit of
not actually
discussions
seen
on
it.
race. Well,
I
it's
have heard of it. I've not actually seen it though, so again, cannot comment.
on Les Miserables. With
Yeah,
they always show the little
I've not
girl's
seen
face at the West End.
again, not seen Les Miserables. I've never had a huge interest in musicals and everything, so it's not something I would actually go and see. And the kind of film with like where all the dialogue is sung is just I'm gonna avoid like the plague because yeah, it's just something I'm not something that would be of great interest to me.
What about
Um,
on the flip side, the music movie Whiplash? It's fine at 15, but that is one of the few films that sits in my brain as being unusually disturbing. And there's no violence, there's no gore, but there is a lot of heavy verbal abuse. Like a
I, again, I've
music
not seen it.
professor shouts at students,
Again, I've not seen it, so I
whatever,
can't
don't
comment.
watch it on a happy day, you'll be stressed out.
I can imagine. I've heard all about it. I just haven't actually seen it, but I've heard so much about it. How it's look how it sort of like goes into abuse and sort of like a music industry or some shit like that. Again, I just going by what I remember. But again, I haven't been able to find it or to watch it, so I can't really comment. I was going to mention actually the Monty Python films because they might count as musicals because I think they have musical numbers in just about all of them. Well, does Life of Brian have a musical number in it? I
Always
know
look on the bright side of life.
Bollocks! How did I forget that? Yeah, but that's kind of right at the end, though. I mean, but I suppose I know Holy Grail has that Camelot song, and Meaning of Life has that song about the universe and all that shit. So yeah, that's that.
My
Yeah,
knowledge
so
on Monty Python isn't that strong, unfortunately. Even though I know a lot about the Life of Brian controversy, I think I'd be deported from the United Kingdom because I don't know much about Graham Chapman and John Cleese and Michael Palin. I actually know Michael Palin a lot more for his travel shows than his comedy. Hopefully, I won't get dirty looks from people saying that.
I don't think you'll get much problems over. I don't think anyone cared that much.
Well, if you say so, I know a lot of British people tell you to hold Only Fools and Horses and Monty Python and Mrs. Brown's Boys, which is Irish, to a high regard.
I don't think
And
many people hold
hello.
I don't think many people hold that for Mrs. Brown's Boys. That's renowned for being absolute garbage tier comedy. I mean, from all I've heard of it, I haven't watched it, but I mean, from what I heard, everyone just says, yeah, it's absolute crap and shit belongs in the bin.
Yeah, but most of the people who I know generally have quite a low-brow sense of humor. That sort of highbrow Armando Iannucci type stuff doesn't quite translate with them. So no thick of it or in the loop. Even Alan Partridge might be a little bit stepping above your line.
I like Alan Partridge is good stuff, but again, that's not musical, so topic.
I know that, but I'll edit it more together. I don't know if you're going to finish things in a little bit, but I will say this one music film that's so offensive and so controversial, it's probably going to label you as a sex offender. It's called Nine Songs. It's the first ever pornography I ever saw.
Yeah, I've not seen it. I won't mind watching it just for a controversy element, but then again, in terms of porn, I've got all that on the internet, so it's probably not something I could probably be asked to go and see to actually take time out to watch. Although I watched Bazemore, so I didn't. Did I know it was a musical? I might have heard it. I just forgot.
Well, the part of the problem is that the BBFC wasn't entirely sure on Nine Songs whether they rate it as just a regular type of movie that has a lot of sex, or as porn, even though it has the music element as they go to these indie rock concerts and bands like Franz Ferdinand and like Gar, another athlete and bands like that, but it's coupled with quite explicit scenes of people doing it. The reason why I brought that up is it's a bit of a curiosity point because I knew someone who said, "Oh, I watched it for the songs," and I had to look at him a certain way, like, "Are you sure you did?" I mean, there's a lot of very erotic and very tasty scenes of people doing it. You weren't watching it for the songs, you were watching it with Kleenex and Vaseline to the side. You probably would do the same too. Admit it.
Well, if I was ever going to watch it, I might watch it for that reason, yeah. But then again, it's like, why? Question is, why? I mean, like, again, if I want to knock one out, I'm just going to boot something up, look up something on my phone, and just do it that way. So, I mean, yeah. On a totally different subject, the sequel to Joker, which I believe is out this year, is apparently going to be a musical as well.
You are correct, and that's the thing I'm dreading the most. Like, how exactly do you do that? I just want my vigilante thriller. I don't want a musical. I want my vigilante thriller stuff.
Yeah, I don't get the thinking behind that. I just don't know why they'd make the follow up to it a musical. I know Lady Gaga's going to be in it, playing Harley, but I still don't understand the methods in their methodology. It's like with the Mean Girls remake that came out this year as a musical as well. I
That's
just
what I heard too,
why?
and Color Purple, and I was like, if I don't get it because I remember when Mean Girls came out in cinemas. Yes, that's how old I am. Um,
I'm 8 years older, so I mean,
exactly, and I'm sure you probably remember Color Purple, original film by Spielberg, and they do musicals on these and they
no.
lighten it up a little bit. I'm like, that just throws me off a little bit, because Mean Girls dealt with bullying and stuff, and Color Purple was quite heavy, dealt with racism and incest and rape. That was like a 15 film, so you do have to
Wait.
wonder a little bit.
Color Purple. Yeah. Well, I haven't watched Color Purple. I don't remember it. I don't think I do remember it coming out, to be honest. But just so actually, sorry, I'm just looking up on the BBFC website, which I'm uh going through right now. Oh, it came out what 1986. I'm not gonna remember that, dude. I was still in nappies.
Hey, I remember when Natural Born Killers came out, and I was certainly not legal to see that movie. But that's beside the point. Can I talk about Baby Driver? Do you consider it
Oh,
a musical movie?
hardly.
Well, in all
Why
fairness,
would that be?
the whole movie's pretty much nothing but songs and car chases. That Ryan Gosling movie Drive sort of operates on the same sort of scope, but I think it would be a good example to bring up because it's sort of fits in the sort of criteria as an acceptable R. It's not excessively violent or gory. The most graphic scene in the movie is watching Jamie Foxx getting impaled and spitting out blood. Other than that, I wouldn't
Lots of
mind
swearing though. I
13-year-olds
think.
watching Baby Driver over the Kite Runner, if you know what I mean. But yeah, there's a lot of F words. There's no mistake in that. But I'm usually a bit more forgiving if I had family members or if I had a son with swearing than I would with violence or rape and drug use and stuff like that. But yes, I probably shouldn't have bought that one. Maybe it was a bad idea. Then Drive, that had a lot of songs, but that was an 18 certificate mainly because you get to see the ginger lady from Mad Men. Her head explodes from
Tina
shotgun.
Hendrick.
That's one. No relation to Jimi Hendrix, but her
Well,
beautiful
no, because it's spelled
head is
differently.
exploded. Yes, and then someone's head is being smashed on the elevator so much, very, very violent, and there's full of blood. Split second. I think I was told they had to censor it just a little bit to avoid an NC-17. Like they had to censor a few things from Team America, but you couldn't tell really because Drive, the Ryan Gosling movie, was still very violent. At least the music sort of lightened up the mood a bit, as did Studio 666. Tell me you've seen that movie. It's the Foo
No,
Fighters.
I've not seen it. I mean, maybe I should, but I haven't. Sorry, mate. Sorry to disappoint.
No pressure there. I just assume if it's a metal type of movie or rock, chances are like Rob Baxter's might sing it like all right then. I don't know if
Yeah,
you
I mean,
have any
don't know if I what?
final faults on any films, or I'll let you call the shots on this one.
Uh, well, obviously, if you're going with musicals, we could go through just about every Disney animated film that's ever been in existence, but then we'll just be here until the sun explodes, and I'm pretty certain you, me, and everyone listening have got stuff to get on with in their lives, so I don't think we can keep them here that long. I know
No,
we've
but you're right.
I mean,
I will interject with the Disney ones. I tried to keep it to a minimum, except for Mary Poppins, because we already talked about Disney animated musicals till the wheels came off. That I think everyone sort of knows what was in Aladdin. The Wizard of Oz is probably the only one I can think of. That's not Disney, but they bought the rights to L. Frank Baum's novels and
oh,
stuff.
and don't forget don't forget Willy Wonka and the Chocolate Factory.
Something in your imagination. I don't know why people are scared of that movie when they saw it when they were children.
I'm more scared of it now as an adult because there's this all obviously that rumor going around that obviously not a massive rumor that sort of quite whispered that or some reflection or analysis that Willy Wonka was a nonce, and I'm watching it just Gene Wilder's performance like, oh yeah, that I couldn't really elaborate onto what I mean of that. Safe to say, if you watch a film and just watch how Willy Wonka talks to Charlie and everything, and it's just Christ, that is really creepy how he does it. It's like he just screams nonce, get him on a register, call the police. Obviously, I'm being a bit like melodramatic and everything. I'm not really being literally, but it just seems a bit. It is a bit icky. Yeah, but that's. I think that's all I've really got to say on musicals. Like I say, I didn't have much to add to this one, so we were kind of basically running on fumes of this one. This was mostly a you one. One for you, Mark. For you had most to add. So yeah, I've reached my conclusion.
Guess I'll say this. Somewhere over Cardiff, Rob is going to forest or watch another film while he's having his beer and pizza, and I'm gonna click my shoes and make this disappear because I'm singing the song from Wizard of Oz. Blah 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 blah. And now I'm gonna end this podcast for you and me and everyone.